Well, okay, Random Rockers. It's been very belated, and for those of you who were hoping for me to talk about these albums, they ain't happening. I don't got time anymore. Apparently, Weezer decided to add and pile on to this coming week's stuff, and I've yet to combine all of what's happening pre-season 8's war stuff for Schmodown Rocks, which, fuck this week's fucking, which was great, even though something happened today where apparently something happened to where I'm locked out of my phone. With the exception of being able to make these videos. Thank the Lord I can at least still do that. And hopefully get to where I need to find a connection to upload this and do all that. So that's what's happening right now. It's frustrating, in case someone hasn't heard from me already so quickly in the next freaking hours or so. That's probably why. If you're watching this at the time of this, which I've recorded this vid. Regardless, let's give you what I can, and then eventually year-end list will happen. Hopefully I can at least get that out before, or at least we get that recorded before those 3 albums come out, so I can get my mind off of it immediately. Because I have a lot to say, especially when it comes to my number 1 of the year, which is kind of a given, but regardless, we'll get to it when we get to it. We're starting with Forgotten Days by Paul Bearer. And yeah, my thoughts on this thing is just... I like the last record they did. Apparently they were a pretty well-noted doom band that started to eventually start adding some progressive stuff. Started to get a little kind of close to sludge metal territory, but not... So sludge doom, but not quite really sludgy enough to get past it. And last record had some progressive stuff, and I guess this time they went even more closer in grunge, or at least in that more Alice in Chainsy kind of way, but not nearly as, or at least early Alice in Chainsy, but I don't think it really comes across as well as I think the band had hoped, or at least it doesn't really kick in until middle of the album. And apparently, I was underwhelmed, but it's fine. It's solid for what it is. If you still like what Paul Bearer does, at least try to give it a shot. New Forming the Void, though the album title escapes me again. Yeah, another thing, and I apologize to Boston Manor for that album, and somehow it also escapes me with that album title again. Jesus. But this album is solid. It's fine. It's fine. It's solid. It's fine. The earlier stuff is better, and I think I've heard a better band earlier this year that I got a chance to talk about in part 1, with how really good this thing is. This is fine. I mean, just like the last time we talked about, it's one of those where by a certain point in the middle of the album, that's when things start to get interesting, pick up, and the rest of the album goes from there in a good way. So it's not, all for naught. It's just another Forming the Void album at this point for me. So it is what it is. I don't expect any of this or the last record I forgot to mention about them, whether they're going to be placed, and that they're not going to be placed anywhere hardly in the list at this point. Well, depending on what I total up with albums at this point. So, yeah. Blue Hearts by Bob Mole. I didn't expect a follow-up to Sunshine Rock, to be honest with you, but it happened. It happened. And it's not as, sunshiny as this record, and they make that pretty clear with the little acoustic number that allows you to focus on the lyricism and already gives you the feel of what this record's going for, and it's more the fact of what he had felt was going on in 2020, or at least trying to put his 2 cents in, really, or while he could, and since of quarantine and all that, he was, he had enough to not be bored, and the music's still just about as good. It's just it's a different vibe, and there are some good tracks on that as well, but it's still kind of in that same vein of those 90s dad alt rock, I guess. But it's fun, or at least that bands like Dinosaur Jr. and whatnot have been lumped into, I guess. But it's fun, or at least in my case, Uncle Rock. But yes, it's not a bad follow-up. I still think he's, at least Bob Bolt's staying consistent with what he's been doing. And it still kind of has some essence of fun to it. I wouldn't say it's as fun as the last record, but that's kind of because circumstances and I guess his thoughts on what was going on with the whole, the whole police brutality backlash, or at least that's what I'm kind of getting out of why this is being called Blue Hearts, because I believe Blue Heart is a certain emblem, certain ward emblem, like in the same way a Purple Heart would be for certain military people. So, that's just my thought on that. So and it's overall it's just fine. Terminal Velocity by John Petrucci. I mean, it's primarily an instrumental thing, but yeah. I mean, given how late I've decided to get a chance to listen to it, I will tell you, it's definitely pretty good. It has its moments and other things. It has a sort of a 12-bar blues thing going on in one of the tracks, but the thing of really what got me interested is, well, all of a sudden, probably because of the fact that this is the first time Petrucci and Portnoy have teamed up in a while. And you can get that feeling about it. And I guess, and from what you can tell from listening to this, it's gone over so dang well that I now look forward to what has already been teased late in the last year in 2020. That's going to be coming here in 2021 with that of the longly anticipated Liquid Tension Experiment 3. This, whatever's coming off of this will definitely be enough if you need something to prepare you for what's more currently going to be going on in between Petrucci and Portnoy, at least, and what it seems. And given what they've teased for this project, the song they did, I think we're going to be golden going into this. It'll be definitely one of the more highly coveted of the more instrumental rock-based prog metal records out there. And speaking of which, Interval Circadian. Dude. This is the third. Apparently he's been, I forgot the name of the actual guitarist that goes by Intervals here, but he's phenomenal. I liked him since a couple albums ago. Even the follow-up album after that, the latest two records are what got me into. The 2 albums ago, I've forgotten the name of that record, which makes me sad. But I really liked that one. The follow-up was great, and this one's even better. And I feel like he's starting to kind of touch up on some aspects of Polyphia's some more hip-hop centric elements and some more post-hardcore screamo oriented sounds with this record, and it's a way more variety as opposed to what has been expected from the past couple releases. So it's a lot more going on. So definitely even more so worth checking out if you're into a more modern essence of prog metal, especially if you did like something along the lines of what I said about Protest the Hero and whatnot. So another instrumental rock thing worth recommending, or even more so, like I said, about Polyphia, even though I kind of couldn't get into them. They were too hip-hop funk for me in a way that was just kind of but that's not what I got out of it. But what I wanted to get out of that, I got out of it here. So definitely check this out. Dogleg by Melee. A very good post-hardcore style vocal, a very pop-punk style group that has post-hardcore tendencies that in a way are reminiscent vocally, but also sonically have ways that it comes off almost a little more reminiscent to like an At the Drive-In meets Fugazi? Of course, Fugazi's influence at Drive-In, but you get where I'm coming from with this. That's what the kind of vibes I get off of this. Especially for, I guess, sort of like this weird mix of the first 2 records and then for Fugazi and that record. And then, of course, what everybody loves about, or at least the EP and then the actual full-length record of classic albums when it comes to At the Drive-In. That for some reason blanking on, and I feel awful that I am for some reason. Mission Ship of Command. There it is. Yes, I'd say it's pretty good if you're definitely into that kind of punk. More on that kind of thing about punk later, but definitely good recommendation. I definitely thank RAR TV for opening me up and to that. Though, speaking of which, The Death of Me by Polaris. Progressive metalcore outfit that apparently I've kind of heard of, but never really gave two shits up until Air TV decided to put that in their top 20. His top 20, and for good reason, it is pretty good. It's pretty good. I've yet to hear this other stuff, but it has me curious now. And maybe in the sense that maybe I don't know how everyone else that is fans of the band feel about this record, but I enjoyed it. So, I mean, I guess for having been a starter, it's not a bad choice, you know. Yeah. Heck yeah, just go check it out if you haven't, you know. It's definitely worth your time. Niha by Orbit Culture. And Swedish Slam. I get like weirdly Demon Hunter vibes, but if it had but minus the Christian aspects and would have possibly been produced by Ola England, or if Ola England had bothered to do producing metal records aside from his own, I guess. I get like vibes of that. Even though what got me into it was Crash saying Gojira meets early thrash Metallica, but slam metal. Which you think the slam metal part would deter me away, but it's everything else before that that actually made me catch my eye on this. And he did put it pretty high. It is... Damn. And they don't like stray away from doing cleans, and they do have some good meaty growls, too. It's... If you're into that level of mosh, just definitely worth a listen. Oh, my goodness. Svalbard, When I Die, Will It Be the End? Again, Crash, Thompson, and maybe kind of sort of Spectrum Pulse, kind of putting them on their list kind of got me to notice it. Or at least, you know, go against my usual thing when it comes to how I am. A lot of people probably would complain, who have been seeing this channel, would, if they ever bother to get into the comment section to complain, might have complained about I don't do enough, talk about enough artists with female lead singers. I'm not against them. I've just, you know, I've had these things where I'm a dude, I want to sing like a dude. It's weird. It's not, but if you look into that too much as if it's a sexist thing, no. I appreciate female singers. And I think they're the shit. And guitarists as well. Bring them, you know. And so on and so forth. In other aspects. I mean, I like Skillet. Or at least I kind of did before they... whatever the hell happened with this past couple releases. Jeez. But that has nothing to do with these guys. These guys are apparently considered hardcore, but really they're more post-hardcore. In fact, I get vibes of Deafheaven, or at least the last Deafheaven record, which you all know how I do like that one. Or at least I was willing to consider it kind of on the list, if not honorable mention, you know? Honorable mention, if not on the list proper. Somehow this is going to probably make my list proper. I'm serious about that. Yeah. Damn. Cherry Glacier, I think it's her name. What her name she goes by, and her screams are pretty good. And I feel like there is some feminist things going on about her lyricisms. Apparently, when you look them up, somehow they are not just labeled as hardcore punk, but also post-hardcore, melodic hardcore, and crust punk. Although they started to also have these sort of post-metal or black into post-metal kind of tendencies in the music. And she can clean sing pretty good too. So it's like, yeah, if you ladies, you know, if you want some ragers here, I mean, these guys got you covered. And I think that I'd actually put this up higher than that one, way higher than that one Japanese group, which I'm actually might be recommending to a friend. I need to do that yet, but that's beside the point. Massive recommendation. Will probably be one of the few times I have a female-fronted group that will wind up making my list proper in the best possible way. or at least bothering to get me to talk about. It's not like I don't have a certain keyboardist involved in another band from that thing that's going to be... I'm already teasing too much. Y'all already know what the answer will be of what's number one anyway. Once we get to it, we get to it. That's another video from the other side. But yes, Svalbard, you've have my attention. Thanks to Crash Thompson, they have my curiosity. And after having listened to this, now you have my attention. Killer Be Killed, Reluctant Hero. The apparently sophomore effort to this apparent supergroup, though the drummer, I'm forgetting who it is for some strange reason, but it consists, other than that, vocally, and guitar, bass, and main front manager, Greg Picciotto, formerly Dillinger Escape Plan, of Black Swans, and of this other thing I'm going to talk about. We're going to get to that. And weirdly enough, I originally thought it was Kirk Weinstein vocally. But turns out it was Max Cavalera. You think with how many times I listened to Head Up off of Deftones Around the Fur, you think I would notice that was Max Cavalera's vocals. But I'm not as huge about Soulfly and Sepultura as most people, so, what the fuck do I know, Which is Jack. But I guess when it comes to them, and then of course the bassist and vocalist Troy Saunders of Mastodon and Gone Is Gone. In fact, this is a better project than Gone Is Gone. And I love the vocal dynamics that are really what sells this record, and the music behind it really pushes it forward as well. Even the softer track that kind of closes out is a nice little build up to something nice and meatier, which ends on a pretty awesome note, And Greg's vocal, and I was, I'm glad I finally... And to think what makes me upset is when I first heard the name Killer Be Killed, I didn't know without having any details, I thought it was just some generic fucking metalcore group. So I had I dismissed them, a massive supergroup involving some of my favorite artists from some of my favorite bands because of this. And I should have already noticed this earlier, even despite someone in one of my chat groups for Facebook. To him, Eddie Gunter, which, by the way, his band, I believe, is... Damn it. Some of Azazel. Prophets of Azazel, I think, maybe? I'll double check on that, but... I'll double check on that, and I'll try to remember to say something in the next video. But yeah, check his stuff out. Because he was definitely one of his little recommendations, I believe. And yeah, worth it. Worth it. More so than what I would say about Greg Picciotto, creator of God. This thing starts off with an acoustic thing, which was kind of different, but I was like, okay. And then we get into this other weird industrial thing that kind of turns into some fucking weird ass noise. And I was like, if this is going to be the rest of the album, luckily it transitioned to what I loved about his times in Dillinger Escape Plan for a couple tracks before it really just turned into some JT shit. And by JT, I mean Justin fucking Timberlake. Like, what the fuck? Which isn't surprising for me having to say that since his time in Dillinger, on the Plagiarism EP, apparently they covered a JT song. So... and plus I don't know if some of that's how Black Swans is, but dude, it's all over the place. Like couple tracks, and it gets to the point where it's like couple tracks Dillinger, couple tracks this thing, and it seems to kind of be about some serial killer shit, which I'm not surprised coming from Greg. I mean, for fuck's sake, he was involved in a band called Killer Be Killed. I mean, build, and plus, with one of those albums with Dillinger Escape Plan, it's called One of Us is the Killer. So I'm not surprised he's exploring this territory. And musically, it's just kind of doing all over the place stuff. In fact, even the synth poppy, the aspects that almost come off borderline synth pop is more interesting than what freaking Pumpkins put out. So I give him credit for just going all over the place in just ways that I'm like, damn. I don't know if I will put it super high, but I almost feel like it could be, but I don't. But I'm not. I mean, when it comes to most of the later half of what will be my list, since most of them are just one-off listens, it's gonna be a mishmash, so it's not gonna be as stable of a list, unfortunately. But 2020 wasn't stable, so fuck it. But yeah, this was also, I guess, if you liked what he's done in all his projects, and even The Killer Be Killed, check this out. Jesus. Avatar, Hunter, Gatherer. Yes. I've been meaning to want to get back to it. I didn't get a chance to check out the last record. The album before that, Feathers and Flesh, was pretty solid. This is kind of a better off idea continuation from what I've heard about Avatar Country. And I love the title track, the Hail the Apocalypse, which was what they opened up at the show that I was at, where they were opening or like co-touring with Trivium. When Jared Dines last time he would ever tour outside of or at least do any tour date specifics outside of Seattle, I guess. So I missed out on my chance to meet this guy and almost came close to meeting Rocked. Luke Spencer of Rocked. So that was while he was doing a photo shoot. So I'm not knowing it until he posted it later. I was like, damn it. But yeah, they impressed me with the way they were, and their shows are pretty good. I understand if some people who feel like, oh, they're just a lesser than Ghost. Hold your horses a little bit. I also get like some vibes of Ace of X. Even though moments where they did some whistly kind of thing was still good, as long as it led to something, got somewhere, and it did, and it's worth your time. Worth your time. Definitely an Avatar album worth your time. Definitely the frontman's Alice Cooper-ish kind of meets Pennywise kind of tendency thing to him. But it works. It works. Definitely worth checking out. For sure, if you wanted a better follow-up to Feathers and Flesh than Avatar Country, there you go. The Ocean Collective, or The Ocean. I'm just going to read it like this. Phanerozic 2 Mesozic Cenozic. The follow-up album to apparently 2018's The Ocean Collective's follow-up to 1 Paleozoic. Basically, all this is about is dinosaurs. A progressive metal band talking about dinosaurs. Oh, this one has some Jurassic and Triassic moments, which I'm guessing is the Mesozoic. And then everything else on the record's the Cenozoic period. It's more just giving off history lesson with thin music. And the form of progressive sort of stonery sludge. Like there's some Mastodon meets some Tool elements. Definitely more so on this one. I do kind of think I would like to say that this is a better follow-up. The follow-up here is an even better effort than the first of these projects. So, but even including the best thing with Catatonia with this thing. But it's more this thing. Definitely a definitely a recommendation. In fact, I need to check out the earlier stuff where they were kind of messing around with the histories of certain religion in terms of Catholicism, and then the more Protestantism and creationist type thing, or at least how those things affected science, religion and its effect towards science, specifically towards Galileo's time within Catholicism, and then the more Protestant side and creationism or something, which I need to check that out because that fascinates me too after having listened to this. I don't know if those albums are considerably better or not, but we'll see what happens with that. But yes, The Ocean now has my attention. And if you like to talk about dinosaurs with some prog metal, here you go. Dinosaurs. Bring Me the Horizon. Survival Horror EP. I have held off completely on this band. Then I heard they went heavier again, and I'm like, okay, I'll try it. I actually heard Obey, and I was like, okay, okay. Even with what's his face is your thing. Now you have my attention. And I listen to this record, and I can tell the vibes about this record is essentially what they've done the past three albums, molded together in a way that's very Linkin Park esque. In a very almost Linkin Park esque way, but definitely with a more atheist, nihilistic thing. Given frontman's, I forget his name, but his tendencies about it, definitely showcasing even more so here. And the one track they did with Baby Metal, or at least the way it starts off with the one interlude thing that eventually leads to the actual song, pays off more once the actual song hits within the context of the record. And wow, probably one of the more creative things this band has probably done. Even the Amy Lee thing that they end on, I understand some people had issues about that being the last thing, but I was fine with it for what it was, and I felt like they blended their cleans blended well together, personally. But I mean, because it's EP, I don't know if it'll make my year-end list, but I mean, now what they're going to be doing with these EPs, if it's anything still like this, they have my attention. So I don't know if I'll bother to listen to the rest of them, because all I remember is like Throne from whatever album that was. It wasn't Simple Turna, it was the album after that. All this other stuff. But yeah, they have my attention now. So and it wasn't bad for the time, if given the timing of stuff, just trying to do singles and then just moshing everything together into one record. It's definitely, I think fans who were disappointed from Amo would love what happened here. So, and then and yeah, that's my thoughts on that. It's not much anything, but there you go. Oh, and finally, 27 Miles Underwater by High Power. Okay. It was such a good year to be a Deftones fan that even their own knockoffs made some really damn good music. Exhibit A or B, depending on which albums came out first between this guys and whatever. But once Ohms hit, they just told these fuckers to sit the fuck down. However, if for some reason you still didn't take your fancy and you're still this certain form of fucking punk elitist, which I had this moment too when I was younger, but I was young and stupid, so there's that, of only believing that their best work was only around the fur and adrenaline. Yeah, there's still some sect of people out there that believe that. And I'm here to tell you, meet your new best, and if you're out there, meet your new best friend. Except if the singer sounded like the dude from, the dude that used to be in Let Live, and I'm forgetting the other band he's now in, but take that, but, instead it's more in line with what Deftones was doing, but in a way that feels like Quicksand meets Pennywise. Nice in a way. It's more if that style was done as a Quicksand meets Pennywise sort of a thing. And if the vocalist of Let Live and the other group I'm forgetting about for some strange reason, I forgot the name of that group. That's very Rage Against the Machine-esque with some Linkin Park touches. Minus the Chester Bennington and Zach De La Rocha stuff. If that guy was like into more Perry Farrell and sort of like the tolerable, whinier era of Tom DeLonge's vocals within Take Off Your Pants and Jacket and What Made Boxcar Racer. Yes. Worth it. Reminded me of why I was that way, understandably. And this is my compromise to all of you. I think it'll make high on the list. Might be higher than that one other album, because I do like the production with this record a lot better, or at least it comes off better in a way that I feel like maybe people who want to remaster Adrenaline should probably take notes of. So, yeah. Yeah, High Power has my attention now. And apparently this is their sophomore effort. This is far from a sophomore slump then. Though apparently Around the Fur and Adrenaline do have a shelf life, though, up to a point. So, yeah, I don't know if you can stick with this for very long without branching off into something else. So, but I think the punk and hardcore kids will finally who did dig those early days of Deftones. This is a shout out to you. This is for you. Give it a listen. And that's my albums left that I was able to get to. Part 2 is done. Year-end list is coming. Eventual video for Schmoedown Rock's return for 2021, where I'm pretty much going to sum up everything that's happened within these past 3 weeks, being the Schmoedown Awards of 2020 and the current situations with free agency and the draft. Those are my plans. Other than that, it is going to be once I'm done with that best of and release it, I'm going to focus on the new albums, because apparently Weezer decided to surprise us with a quarantine album of OK Human, on top of having to hear about the new Soen album that's supposed to come out and the new Steven Wilson that was delayed that was supposed to come out last year, that got delayed till this year. Well, sure. So I got like 3 albums I need to check out, on top of the fact that it's prior to the week that Foo Fighters' new record's coming out, and I'm going to have to listen to it regardless. And so far, at least the other songs besides Shame Shame are good, at least. So there's that. But anyways, what did you guys think of these albums? Leave a comment below, let me know. As always, guys, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking. I'll see you in the next video, whenever that may be. Take care, y'all.